So we turn our eye to business. Karis joins us here in the studio. Good evening to you. The war between Israel and Hamas threatening, of course, to spill over into Lebanon. Even further, as we've been hearing, many say the country there is ill-prepared already, of course, as we've reported in the past, in economic freefall. Karis.
Right, so since the outbreak of the conflict, we've seen regular clashes between Hezbollah and Israeli forces, displacing families on both sides of the border. And in Lebanon, the fighting has hit, among others, the tourism and the hospitality industry, especially as foreign nationals are advised to both leave Lebanon and not travel there. The Lebanese government has announced it's developing an emergency plan in case war does spill over to its territory. That includes securing key infrastructure to ensure that imports continue to arrive. But many question whether that's enough. Jenny Shin reports.
This hotel under construction in the town of Hezbollah in southern Lebanon was said to be a summer holiday destination. Today, it's been transformed into a shelter to accommodate families displaced from villages bordering Israel. But the country's already precarious situation means volunteers and NGOs have to make do with limited resources.
Given the economic deficit and the total paralysis of the Lebanese government, we as municipalities are entirely dependent on donations from civil society organisations, emigrants and charitable donors.
Since the recent flare-up of the war, Lebanon's Hezbollah group has traded fire at the frontier almost daily with Israel. Residents in border towns are holding their breath amid fears of escalation. But many are sounding the alarm, saying Lebanon is ill-prepared for a spillover of the war.
Our equipment is very basic, and we lack a lot of them, like fire suits and extinguishers. We don't even have helmet or bulletproof vests to protect our team so that they can put out fires during bombing.
Since the devastating explosion of Beirut port 4 years ago, the country's economy has taken a free fall. Some 80% of the population live in poverty, with the bankrupt state only providing electricity for a few hours a day. And since the volatile situation with its neighbor, some sectors have seen a drop of 80% in business. The Lebanese government says it's developing an emergency plan to prepare for the war breaching the border.
Eurozone inflation fell more than expected in October and to its lowest level in more than 2 years. Consumer prices rose 2.9% this month compared to 4.3% in September, getting closer to the European Central Bank's target of 2% after a series of interest rate hikes. This drop is mainly due to falling energy and food prices. If we take a look at core inflation, which disregards these two variables, the figure rose 4.2% in October. There is some bad news, though. This slowdown and higher borrowing costs reflect weaker economic activity. GDP in the Eurozone contracted by 0.1% over the July to September period. Let's check in with the day's trading action. On Wall Street, stocks closed higher, taking the edge off slightly from its third straight losing month. The Dow Jones up 0.4%, the S&P 500 gaining 0.2%, and the Nasdaq closing 0.5% higher. It comes ahead of Wednesday's Federal Reserve meeting, in which policymakers are widely expected to keep interest rates in their current range. Pfizer has reported its first quarterly loss since the pandemic of more than $2 billion. The American drug maker has seen significant sales decline for COVID-19 products, leading Pfizer to record a $5.6 billion charge for inventory write-offs during that quarter because of lower than expected use. But following solid growth among its non-COVID offering, the company said it was on track to reach its 2023 targets thanks to recent approvals of new medication. And finally, Danish beer company Carlsberg says Russia stole its subsidiary in the country. The group had attempted to sell Baltika breweries following Moscow's invasion of Ukraine, and after announcing it had found a buyer in June, the Russian state took over operations. Well, on Tuesday, Carlsberg said it had cut all ties with the subsidiary, saying it would not enter a deal to make the seizure of assets look legitimate. Mark.
Karis, thank you very much indeed. Karis Garland there with all the business.